Fabian is an avid coder who has been coding from languages like PHP to all the web languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. He is most known for standardizing the ERC20 token standard, which was responsible for the 2017 crypto bull run. His new standard that he is pushing is called the ERC725. Fabian also created some of the industry's most important tools and applications like the Ethereum wallet and Mist browser, Ethereum's first applications which allowed users to access the various dApps on the Ethereum network back in 2015. Ethereum's most used JavaScript library, web3.js, was also built by Fabian. Fabian also created the world's first reversible ICO, which allowed investors to withdraw funds in case they had buyer's remorse, helping to protect new investors. And last but not least, today we are going to be talking about Fabian's current endeavor, and that is the Lukso network. Hey everybody, Skyler here, and before I did this interview, I guess I just wanted to touch base with you guys and just kind of let you know a couple of things. First, I wanted to say thank you, Fabian, for doing this interview with me. I reached out to him. I actually never reached out. It was my favorite project, and I was like, and he actually replied, and I was like, oh, holy crap. So I scouted out a bunch of questions, and we did, in fact, a couple of my, anyways, I didn't get to all of them, so I apologize about that. And also, I'm a little bit socially awkward. Yeah, a lot of times I'm talking to Fabian in the interview, and I'm just like, whoa. And then I'm like, oh, question. I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. Anyways, I'm really, really sorry about that. I guess we'll do the interview. Before we go, just know, hi Daisy. I guess Banksy wanted to say hi. Say hi, Banksy. Anyways, this channel is made for newer people into the space. I do live streams every single Sunday to answer any questions or anything like that people may have, and everything that YouTube gives me goes straight to charity. So every like, subscribe, absolutely is appreciated. And yeah, I will see you around. And here is the interview. Thanks, guys. So I guess I'll just start with the very first question, and that is, tell me about, first of all, I guess I heard about Lukso the first time. Actually, I don't even know how I first heard about it, but then when I heard that like you and Marjorie were working on it, I was like, oh, that's cool. So can you kind of tell me how that started with this project with you and her?
I mean, basically we are like together since a long time, since over, I think like 12 years or whatever. And I was part of the blockchain space, got into crypto 2013 and then 2015 Ethereum. And basically she was always there, like saw the whole thing happening, getting also the whole input from my side. Then she was working at Ernst & Young, and there she led the innovation lab, or built up the innovation lab in Berlin. And it was all about blockchain. So the whole innovation was blockchain, something, blah, blah, enterprise, wanting to do things with blockchain. So, I worked like from the beginning, literally, of Ethereum. I mean, before we started the network, I joined January 2015, worked there until 2018. And I kind of felt also that I have done my part in this ecosystem. I felt like, I did the things I wanted to build, and it had an effect, and it was rolling. And then Marjorie came up with this idea, okay, let's do something with fashion on blockchain. And I thought about it initially and thought, that's a bit like limited. I'm not so into fashion. I'm not so sure. But I really like this idea of creating a whole ecosystem. And especially I really like the idea of focusing away from this financial aspect of blockchain. And I think what really like got me the most is this kind of idea, okay, we can create a complete different new way of how bringing people into blockchain. At the same time, it's non-financial, means it's actually interesting to the mainstream in the first place. And we can also completely rethink and evolve the user experience of how you interact with blockchain. And this is something that was really dear to me because I have helped build the initial parts of how we did that on Ethereum. and I saw the limitations. I mean, we tried to do it the real decentralized way, and we did. The Mist browser was the first fully decentralized Web3 browser. But at the same time, I also saw its shortcomings, and I saw also what's the problem. And everybody knows it today. You want to do something with crypto, means you have to understand MetaMask, you have to write down words, you have to back up keys, you have to KYC on exchanges. It's like this huge list of complex things you have to do, and still like most people don't even know what they did there. And that's not the kind of experience we should have or we need. And so I really saw this opportunity that with this Lukso idea that I could evolve further what I started at Ethereum and bring it to the next level. And it's also because Lukso is its own new blockchain, and it's only possible because of that. Because on Ethereum, the vision I have, smart contract-based accounts and all of these things, they just would not be feasible because it would be too expensive. It would be the ecosystem is not adoptable enough because it's already set up and everybody's using it a certain way right now, and it would be just a really tricky thing to make everybody adjust in that direction. It would take far too long and it would never really be adoptable. So therefore, having a fresh network, having cheaper transaction fees, having more complex smart contract execution possible, and having a standard set that where we can say, okay, this is the things these are the basic building blocks. This is how you make an NFT. That's how you make an account. That's how you make a token. And this is how the stuff speaks to each other. You basically create like this basic setup that makes so many more things faster possible and better possible already. And that was just like literally, that was kind of like the big convincing piece for me to think this through. And then we just went for it, basically.
Yeah, that's really cool. This next question, it came from a Reddit user. He said, let's see, would be great to understand which of the bootstrapping projects they mentioned in their white paper will be up and running out of the gate at net launch. They've already communicated some will come online over the next few years.
So the thing is, we are working on a few projects internally. So there's projects that we're doing with other partners and then existing brands and companies and so on. That we cannot really announce it before we announce it. But there's also applications that we build ourselves. And one of these applications, for example, is not only obviously the universal profiles and ways of how you use them and so on. That's another piece I can talk about in a bit. But it's, for example, a digital fashion application, which is super cool because it allows you to buy and wear digital fashion, kind of like Snapchat, but full crypto and full body tracking. So this is something, it doesn't exist like this. And this is one of these makes it obvious of what could be done kind of applications.
So what do you think the first big thing that will be built on your network that will be mass adopted, I guess?
I mean, I do think and that's why we also really started focusing the work we are doing really on this digital fashion angle, because this is literally what will be the next $1 billion, trillion-dollar economy in the future. So it's also just so novel, it's so cool, it's so crazy at the same time that it's just really fun to work on this kind of stuff. So this is kind of a full killer application, and blockchain is essential here because 3D clothes without the ownership are just like gimmicks, that's just 3D files. But with the ownership, they are part of something that can have value over a long time, and it can have a life in different worlds. So something that I buy now, maybe in 5 years, I can play it in a computer game. Same item, same brand, same thing that I bought here has so many different future use cases that don't have to exist right now. So I think this is it. But actually, the real killer application are the universal profiles. They are not only the killer application in blockchain in general, but I mean, not only on Lukso, but in blockchain in general as well. Because the way of how you interact with blockchain right now it just has so many problems, and it's literally the biggest pain point for adoption is exactly that problem. And also what we are seeing now when we are looking at Facebook, Twitter, and all of these things that happen with deplatforming in the last few years, we see the problems that happen with centralized systems, right? And it's not even that Mark is a bad guy or Jack, would like to have world dominance. Quite the opposite, actually. But it's they're forced into this position of responsibility for their platform. They're forced into this position where they now have to somehow curate, delete accounts, block accounts based on whatever political, mood exists right now. And that's a problem. They never wanted to be in that position, but because they're in control of the system, they're now put in those positions, and they have to have departments that, now judge what is right and what's wrong. That's literally George Orwell, and therefore we need these kind of independent system when it comes to the account level, when it comes to the profiles, when it comes to the basic interaction. The basic point of interaction that we have in the internet, right? It's our profiles. It's the thing that we have reputation from. It's the thing that everything is based on, our profiles, our reputation, our interactions, the things that we can create. For example, a YouTuber like you, you want to be independent of any platform for us, for ideally forever, right? You don't want that somebody like YouTube decides tomorrow that crypto is illegal and plum, your channel is gone and your account is deleted, and like you worked on that like for years, for example. So I think this kind of basic building block that's missing in the internet, and blockchain can give us this kind of basic building block. So, and with the blockchain-based accounts and with the standards that I have proposed and all the things, I would say I've figured out a way how to do this and how to do it right. And I think that will show. Sounds bold, but I think it's there to see for everybody since years, so it's not really a new thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's so this channel is I created this channel because when I first got into this industry, it was like a nightmare, and I'm just like, how the heck is anybody supposed to learn any of this stuff without like dedicating tons of time? And so that's been the number one thing I feel like was needed in crypto is like, people ask me like, well, how do I buy Bitcoin? It's like, well, there's a huge conversation that needs to take place about what Bitcoin is, exchanges and wallets and keys and all this sort of nonsense. And it just seems like there's an easier way. And so, when I first heard about the user profiles, I got excited for a lot of things. So that, the reputation, like you were talking about as well, that gets me really excited, and people not having to worry about losing their passwords. All of that sort of stuff. So,
the thing is, to make this possible, what you just described, it's far more complex under the hood than how we do things right now. So currently, if we interact with blockchain, we have keys. We do just some transactions, they interact with smart contracts, or that just transfer some assets around, or that talk to a token smart contract. It's on that kind of interaction level with the blockchain, it's very basic. So that is a lot more complex when you use smart contract-based accounts. And there's a lot of things to standardize to make that really fluid and make that happen. And that's what we have done. But from a user perspective, it turns out to be a lot easier, because on the end, you don't have to worry anymore that that when you started this app and you didn't write down the 5 words, or like you maybe copy and pasted that these 12 words or wrote them on paper, or like made a screenshot, obviously how most people do it, that this is a big deal because it can be replaced. Yeah, you can throw away that key you used there, which was unsecure, and you didn't do it properly, and add another device that's more secure, or have some backup devices, or have some social recovery. So all of these complex schemes could now happen, which make it far less problematic for you to potentially lose your things. And this is really just how you interact with this stuff. Plus also, I think one big experience everybody has, when people set up MetaMask and they interact with Ethereum, what most people do is they set up MetaMask, move their coins there, and never touch it again. Because they're happy that it's now there and it's safe. And like this was so complicated and so, it feels so dangerous that ideally you don't touch it because maybe it explodes or so, and that literally is actually the worst for blockchain and for all of these dApps, because it makes people not use it, not interact with dApps, not be fluid, not be easy with this stuff, because they think every time they do something, they might just, kill all of their money, for example, or do the wrong thing, or lock themselves in or out or whatever not. And this is because the user experience and the level users have to operate right now is such a low level. It's just it's like almost like asking people to like fiddle around on their engine before starting the car. I mean, most people will think they will break something, and people do break things, So if we can abstract this more, we can give this kind of convenience and confidence that things feel easier, and then people interact with these accounts more, especially also when it's not always about money, when it's about reputation, when it's about things that are not necessarily costing you your house if you do the wrong decision. So, and that will bring adoption. This will bring users into using blockchain, interacting with the decentralized application and even non-decentralized application that have some kind of like a Web3 component. And that will really bring on the end the mainstream adoption.
Yeah, that's how long have you been building this ERC725?
So 725 basically is something that I proposed 2017 in November. And I mean, I was at the time working with some consultancy companies that wanted to do something with identity on the blockchain. So and I helped them a little bit. So I had to think about like, okay, what could an identity on the blockchain look like? And I really thought it from a smart contract perspective. And it was really just like, it was their project. So I didn't really care about identity at the time. I just thought like, okay, I come up with this, and I had some ideas and I did it. And I initially thought really like that projects like Uport will come with like smart contract standards that can describe this well. But most of these projects, they figured out, okay, putting things on the blockchain is tricky because it's kind of public, more or less. And then they only want to create some kind of claim registries, and they really like made some more bare bone things. And interesting enough, it felt for me like that I need to propose a standard, and I did. And I got quite some traction, or a lot of interest at the time from a lot of projects. But because I had no business in identity and I didn't build anything in this direction, I thought like, hey, give it to them. People will they will evolve it. They will build the tools. They will make it all happen, blah, blah, blah. Funny enough, didn't happen. Actually, everybody got excited, but nobody really felt they can take charge of evolving it further. And that's kind of funny because it expects the opposite. And then when we build Lukso, and when we really like dig into this creative economy and all of these things, I realized that my standard I have proposed back then is absolutely essential here to make this happen in the first place. And it got me really thinking about more details and the whole complexity around it, and how you manage your keys, and what information can be attached, and how information can be attached. How can a profile look like, and all of these things. So we started building this, and this is where we are today, where we basically have figured out 90% of it. And we're now working on the whole authentication part. Means how do you log in with a Web3 profile? How do you add a new device to your login to your profile? How do you interact with dApps? All of these things. It's essential. It's completely like it's funny enough. I mean, the standard was out there for everybody to see, and somehow it waited for me to come back to finally do it, which is interesting.
What are so you proposed it in late 2017, and then like a year later or something, nobody was doing.
I mean, there was
on it.
So there was this alliance forming called the ERC725 Alliance, and there was like I think there's just like 20 projects said they use it. I don't know how many actually used it, and I never really checked that. So, but I felt it was not really. It was also still in evolution, and it was never really like taken on by one of these projects for real. And also the standard changed a little bit. So there was like an initial version, and it changed to a version 2 that it was quite different. It was more simplified, but was quite different. And then people were a little bit confused, I think, also in how, I mean, not everything it's not like that everything is figured out. It defines a core building block, which is how your account smart contract can look like and how you can attach information. But what information you attach and how that information looks like, how does a claim of whatever kind looks like, that's something to be defined as well. And that's something that somebody needs to define who like comes up with claims. For example, if you're a KYC provider and you want to attach a claim to this account that we verified him, come up with a standard. How should this claim look like? How do you read it out? How you verify it? Like all of these things can easily be standardized now, but people have to do it. And I'm not a KYC provider, so I won't do it. But somebody can easily do it. And I think this kind of stuff is kind of extending on top of that standard. Hasn't happened to the extent at the time as it should have been, in my opinion, or maybe not should have been, as it could have been. But this will become very more obvious once people have these accounts. And when you go to the universalprofile.cloud website, you already can see, okay, that's cool. It looks like an account, has some pictures. People can add links and text. It looks very much like a Web 2 account. The difference is when you check this website out, everything is read from the smart contracts and everything is read from IPFS. So the whole thing is decentralized. The control is whoever has the keys on these accounts. There's no database, there's no auth server or anything behind this. So which makes it look the same like the old world, but works very different under the hood. And that's kind of cool. And once people have these, anybody could build a protocol on top of this. Anybody could come up with a reputation system that you can now like literally add to your profile. And now you have a decentralized reputation system attached, or some kind of decentralized follower system, which then is a follower system that works across different platforms and different applications. So it's not anymore that you have your followers on Twitter and you have them on Instagram and they're like not the same people and they're maybe different numbers, right? Maybe you're famous on Twitter, but you're not famous on Instagram. Now it could be the same thing everywhere because it's just one decentralized follower system underpinning it all. So things like this can be easily added. And that just makes it far more exciting, makes it far more flexible. And things like this, they will happen, but obviously, we need the network first. We need to build a few more pieces that it becomes easy for developers to do that. And also that they see the vision and they see, oh, that's cool. I want to build that. I want to build that. So yeah, there's a lot of things more coming and I could talk another hour on that, but go ahead and ask some questions.
Can you explain? I guess I don't know really how to ask this question. Like you said in the notes, it's kind of a few questions in one. But can you kind of explain the differences really between Lukso and Ethereum, the interoperability between you two, and how the standards are going to be work with you guys?
So the thing is, I think one thing which needs to be clear is that Lukso, the blockchain, and Ethereum, the blockchain, is two different things. So they're two blockchains, right? Ethereum already runs, we don't run. That's one difference, but that will change. But it's under the hood using very similar technology. So there's a difference between Ethereum, the mainnet, and Ethereum, the technology. So Ethereum, the technology, is like the Ethereum virtual machine, the thing that can run smart contracts, the way of how you speak to smart contracts, all the tools, some I have which I have built, and Solidity, for example, can run in Ethereum virtual machine, the smart contract languages. So this is Ethereum as an execution engine, and then it's Ethereum, the current network, which is kind of like proof of work, the mainnet, being at block, whatever, 5 million or 50 million, wherever we are right now, or 2 million. And basically what we are using is we're using the Ethereum technology, means we execute smart contracts the same way like Ethereum does. And in fact, for our mainnet, we're even using the Ethereum 2 consensus. So we're using Casper, combining it with an EVM. So we're basically combining ETH1 and ETH2 into a new way of how we arrange that to start a new network, called the Lukso blockchain, which means anything you can build on Ethereum, you can also build on Lukso. Anything you can build on Lukso, you could also build on Ethereum. In terms of standards, any standard that works on Ethereum can work on Lukso too. You can just deploy the same smart contracts. You can make it the same way. You can modify whatever. There's like some recommendations about standards that we are doing and tools we are building to interact with those kind of standardized smart contracts in an easier way. For example, universal profiles, ERC725, and so on. But there's also, you could also just do it the same way. You could deploy a 7-to-1 NFT. You can deploy an ERC20. You can do it the old way on Lukso as well. That will not be smart, but you could. It's just an EVM. It runs any smart contracts. In terms of the transactions per second or throughput, I mean, we have done some initial tests. We even cranked up the gas limit to 200 million in a 6-second block time. So things are possible like this. But in order to really know the real numbers, we have to have the final architecture running as a machine. So currently we are building that. And it's pretty far, but obviously, until it's not complete, it doesn't run. Once we are running this, then we can make stress tests and we can see what the transaction throughput is. But it's very higher. It's much higher than the Ethereum mainnet is already. And even though we kind of think like Ethereum is not super fast, it's pretty big. I mean, the amount of transactions that happen on Ethereum every single day, it's not little. I mean, could be more. This is far more demand than there is resources. But it's already a lot, and people start to they tend to underestimate that. While all of the other blockchains, which come up with 1,000 transactions per second and blah blah blah, there's no activity there. So it's great that you have 1,000 transactions per second, but you make only 5 because there's nobody using your network. So it's also people start to not really see that. You have to get there to this demand. So even Ethereum's scale is already a lot. So we will likely have at least 10 times more, very likely a lot more than Ethereum mainnet. Again, we have already ran 200 million gas on 6 seconds. So Ethereum has 8 million gas. So that's already, I don't know how much more, it's a lot more. But at the same time, getting to the usage of Ethereum's mainnet already will take some time. So I don't see, I can be wrong, can be also super fast adopted and people go crazy and nuts and, millions of transactions happening instantly. Could happen too. But we will have quite some time before our network will fill up and we see gas prices increasing like we see on Ethereum, which is also essential to make all of these new standards work, because you will do more complex transactions under the hood, in order to have this user experience that we want to have. That means it's a bit more gas expensive, but because the gas price is cheaper, everything is far cheaper. So it's in there. And there's also ways of how we hide these transaction fees from users. And that's another reason why a new network is essential, because you could never do that on Ethereum. If you want to prepay your users, you have to first collect $50 million just to pay your users transaction fees, and then you can get started with your app. That's very different here, because we can run transaction relay services that allow to make free transactions for users, let's say up to 100 for each user, because it's possible, right? The fees are far lower in the network in the first few years, and that allows this kind of user adoption where a user does not need to go to an exchange to do something, but he can literally, download the browser extension, create a profile, go to the website, do some likes, do some cool stuff, issue an NFT, do something, and never even knew that there was a blockchain under the hood, or Lukso, or Lux, or how transaction fees are paid and how this stuff works. But I use blockchain all the time in every step. These things will become possible, and they will actually only become possible because of these universal profiles.
Yeah, that's really cool. I watched a video. I think Andreas Antonopoulos is the reason why I even got into crypto. I saw one of his videos. I'm like, oh, that's what crypto is. And I was like, yes, on board. But I recently saw a podcast that he was in, and he was talking about the crypto being in like the AOL heydays, and to that never really made sense to me, because there's no like everyone knows what blockchain is and knows it's confusing, and there's nothing kind of easy about it. And so I just felt like how could we be in AOL days if there isn't any app that isn't mass adopted by people, unless they're like crypto people. But yeah.
I mean, so the funny thing is there is a lot of, I mean, it's a niche still, and there's a lot about financial use cases. They then on the end create the numbers, and these numbers is what make everybody impressed and make also more people come in, because wow, millions, DeFi, blah blah blah. But it's kind of funny because we're actually getting back to this AOL day. I mean, like, back in the day when you wanted to use the internet, you had this AOL CDs. They gave you like free internet minutes. Mm-hmm. So you got 20 minutes of internet, and then you like kind of like chip this CD in, and you always got the new one. So you had more free internet.
Yeah.
The funny thing is we kind of will get back to this using the universal profiles. I mean, one of the things, if you want to interact on the blockchain, is you need to pay transaction fees. Right, that's what is Lux is for. That's what Ether and Ethereum is for. That's what Bitcoin is for. You have to pay for transaction fees, because otherwise, no validator will ever run that system. Because why would they? Mm-hmm. But paying the transaction fees is also what makes it the most complicated to get user adoption, because that means, hey, please get this token that you don't know how it works to use this app, and this can be completely removed. This problem using smart contract-based accounts, using these universal profiles, because you can now have relay services, transaction relay services that pay the transaction fees for you, and they can build their own business model on top of how they get paid. And it doesn't need to be all super like decentralized. So the thing is, the way of how we work in Luxo is you will basically have a browser extension, a little bit like MetaMask, but it's literally just your profile browser extension. And you can simply pick one of the free transaction relay services. I mean, there will be probably some that give you 10 free transactions, and then they ask you to subscribe with $5 a month to get the 1,000 free transactions per month or whatever. Or maybe some actually will make you watch ads, and then you get 10 free transactions every time you watch like 5 ads or whatever. They can come up with their own business model of how they pay for your transaction and how to make money. And the only thing you have to do is add the URL in your settings. Or we make it even easier. You click add transaction relay service and you just press OK. And you have and the benefit of this is also not only that you don't have to worry about fees because it's like done under the hood, but the cool thing is there's no risk on your profile. Like this transaction relay service can do nothing that you don't confirm. He cannot alter your transaction. He cannot make you lose money. The worst thing he could do is not put your transaction in the network, but you will notice this if you click a button and nothing happens. So it gives you full control. You still have all the control over your blockchain-based account, but you don't have the complexity on the transaction level, gas, payment, fees, blah, blah, blah. And there will be a whole economy spinning up around these kind of business models. So then we're back into the days of the AOL CDs. So you go then to this website, you watch some ads to get your free transactions, and then you're happy doing something. And for the people who are lazy, that just pay a subscription, they never have to worry about this again. Or if you're like the crypto sophisticated guy, you just buy yourself some Lux and put them on your keys and do it this way. Then you're in charge yourself. But there's so many ways of how this problem can be like completely solved and completely like hidden from the user, right? And that's what we need if we want to have mainstream adoption.
Yeah, that's really cool. And those companies that say, "Hey, watch 10 ads and we'll give you this, this coin or whatever," and they don't do it, that can be their reputation could be dinged by that, right? On the universal profiles, and you could actually know who's legit.
So the point is actually, they don't give you coins. That's the point. Because if they would give you coins, you could game the system. You would like just go all the time, watch ads, and you get free money. They actually just relay your transactions. So they only pay the fees for you.
So they give you really game free transactions.
Yeah, they basically that you send the transactions to them, and they will forward it to the Lukso blockchain.
Oh yeah.
And they pay the transaction fees, but your key manager, the one which controls your universal profile, will verify that it was the transaction was signed by you. So you have full control, but you don't have to worry about the transaction fee stuff. And it's not that they give you money and then you do it. It's like you literally just give them the transaction. And the worst case, obviously, if there's a relay service that wants to be successful, and like people like at this relay service make 5 transactions and they never happen, I mean, obviously they lose their business instantly.
Yeah.
Who wants that? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So you go to another one, or you. And we also will have some public usable transaction relay services where you can have 100 free transactions. Also, transactions are far cheaper, so it will not cost you dollars. It will cost you cents or fraction of a cent.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's not it's not a huge cost for these relay services, but they can have their own little business models on top of this. Running their own margins on whatever they do. And I guess with $5 a month, you're pretty good, doing a lot of things. So, but it will abstract the way it is. And whatever then people come up in the future of how this stuff is being paid, and I don't know, lots of things are possible.
Yeah.
Just because of the basic standardization.
Yeah, that's really cool. So let me shift, I guess, here, and I guess again, I don't know if I'm asking this question correctly, but can we? And I'm sure I could have digged through Discord, I guess, but your token release, because you're gonna do the RICO in 2 different steps. You're not going to do the second one, and there's some tokens not distributed, and so the release is going to be a little bit less. Can you kind of talk about the tokenomics, I guess, when the mainnet happens?
So basically, we have how we put this on the Universal Profile website, not the Universal Profile, the Reversible ICO website. So basically, we have this sections. So we have planned 20% for the public. We have sold, I don't know how many it was, I think almost 10%. I don't know. We have also sold parts in the private sale. So you could take basically the private sale and the public sale as basically what's sold to the public, right? Just in different means, either through a private sale or through a public sale. We still have some left of that, and we will likely sell them in the future. And maybe there's a second reversible ICO. Maybe there's some other reallocation we are doing. But right now, I mean, it's likely that we will burn this. So the thing is, this 100 million Lux that will exist, a lot of them, and the biggest portion is really something that will be released over a very long period of time. And the reason why that portion exists is because we want to be able to not just make everybody happy in the early days, and then you have this super cool network that's supposed to be becoming very big, but it's just like 5,000 investors. You want to distribute the ownership as much as possible, and you want to make it attractive for also latecomers. And I'm not talking only users, they will anyway use it, but also for companies to become part of the network and don't feel they missed out on just because they were not nerdy enough at the time, like crypto savvy enough to be looking at this early project. They also want to come, and they don't want to buy the tokens to trade or like do big investments. They will buy them because they want to pay for their users' transaction fees. Mm-hmm. They want to have users using their technology, which uses the Lukso network, means the more stash they can pay, the cheaper they can get these transaction fees or this Lux, the longer they can pay transaction fees for their users. So, but also when they are sold in the future, it will be all at the price what the market is. Maybe it's a slight discount, but it's not that they get it like for 20 cents again. So for a market, there's not really a danger because nobody gets a bunch of free tokens and can just dump them crazy. So this will be over time distributed, and this will be many years to come. The problem is, and what I have seen with Ethereum and other projects, is that they literally have distributed everything in the beginning, and then there was very little room for supporting the ecosystem, giving grants and these kind of things, because either they gave their teams too much, which was already unrealistic, didn't happen for Ethereum, but happened for a lot of projects, or they then have nothing anymore to give. So they cannot really support the growth of the ecosystem over many years to come, and that's necessary. So, for example, if we would see, okay, in 2 years' time, the ecosystem is a complete self-runner and everything works well, sure, we can decide to burn 40% of the tokens because they're not needed anymore. The thing is working well enough and the ecosystem is supported and growing, and then decisions like this could be made. Right now, it's meant for that future, which we still have to see how it will be. And then we are at least not, our hands are not tied and we are completely having thought ahead a little bit more than most of the other projects. So I think that's why the distribution is like this and has been to be. So for example, the other thing is with the ecosystem, there's a lot of things in the blockchain that need to be built that are not profitable. There's a lot of things like tools, protocols, things that need to be built, that need to exist, but there are no business model and there shouldn't be a business model. And they also need to be supported through grants, for example. I mean, there's a lot of protocols that we see on Ethereum that are great, but their token is completely bullshit because the token is irrelevant. It doesn't need to be there. But they come up with a token because they want to, get money to build the thing. But by having this token in the system, they literally already making it impossible to ever be adopted properly, like for real. That's why Uniswap killed Bancor, right? Because Uniswap was just the same thing without the token, because the Bancor token was never, or like whatever, 0x, whatever other token, decentralized exchanges, they were never needed in the first place. And it's the same here. That's why you need money to fund projects like this. So they don't have to go and like come up with token models that are stupid in the first place. So there's a lot of things that are common goods in these systems that need to exist, like universal profiles, for example. That's no business model behind that. It cannot have a business model. It's a common good that people can use and do whatever they want with. So it needs this kind of liquidity and support, and also this kind of long-term planning.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like the way that you think about things. Mainnet, we show Q2 is kind of what's is that still before July, is still planned?
So I mean, how we kind of laid it out in the blog post that was published recently. When it comes to what we are building and how we are building our mainnet is completely novel. This has never been done before. In fact, Ethereum 2.0 right now does a hackathon to figure this kind of stuff out. So combining an execution engine plus combining the beacon chain in a novel way, that's never has been done before. So sadly, it's not that we have done it, it's sitting in the shelf. We already have a date that we just don't tell anybody. Like we can't know what will be, we don't know the unknowns until we have run it and really see that it works the way we think it will work.
Absolutely.
So there's sadly no real clear date to be put on that. So I mean, I would like to have it tomorrow because all the things we're building depends on that as well. But there is sadly no clear, answer to this. I can't say it's before Q2 because I don't know. We have to. So we're currently, I can tell you where we are at. So we have basically built a lot of the pieces to make the whole thing running. We're building the last pieces, the orchestrator. We're still finalizing the Vanguard side, which is kind of the execution engine, consensus engine, needs to have finalized parts, and the Pandora. But most of the things are looking really good. Once we have this running, we will be able to run a network, and then we can do also tests like throughput and all of these things. And once we see this is running stable for a while, then we can actually start a public test network, and people will very much be able to participate and know about that. And then once we see this is running for, let's say, a month or a few weeks stable, then we can think about starting the mainnet. So it's not that the main will pop out of behind the curtain, like, Papa, here's mainnet. So people will they will very much, know when it happens. And in fact, if you are really interested, you can go to GitHub, you can check the commits and the things that happen, while we develop it. So it's all open there to watch. It's just that you need to read yourself into it a little bit more. So it's literally happening, in the open. It's just technical. In terms of like validators and how this stuff works, so we're using the Casper consensus. So the way of how you will become a validator will very likely look very similar to how you do that in ETH 2.0. So you will have to run a validator client. You will have to stake some Lux. There will be a smart contract where you send them to. The smart contract in our case will not run on Ethereum, but it will very likely run in our own EVM shard. And there will be a way of how you stake those Lux and how you get going. There will be hopefully also ways of running simply a dApp node. So this is kind of like dApp node computers that you can run all kind of blockchains. So things like this will be possible. You buy yourself the dApp node, you plug it in, and it will just run and then validate. But things like this, they can only be like really finalized once we are getting closer to mainnet. Plus, somebody needs to build, for example, this dApp node thing. Somebody needs to build an image for that and set it up. And we will likely have that, but it's not delegated proof of stake. Means if you're a validator, you're running the network and you have the responsibility that your system runs well. It's not that you just like delegate your coins to somebody who knows what he's doing and then get some income for free. In this case, it's a more decentralized system. It's like ETH 2.0. So everybody is a full validator, has the full responsibility of making sure that they create the blocks if they run the system. There will be pool services and all of these things and staking pools for sure as well, just not on a chain level. However, they run their pool and manage their pool. I don't know. This will be very much like pools are happening on ETH 2.0 as well. So when it comes to how this stuff works, if you look at how Ethereum 2.0 works, the beacon chain currently, how you validate, it will be very close to that because we are using the Casper consensus.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sure most people would like it done the right way than done early. So as well. So again, appreciate the way you think. I mean,
the thing is, there's always there's also always, I think there's the right time. For example, the funny thing is NFTs were a big deal 3 years ago. I mean, 2015, 16, 17, 18, there was a lot about NFTs. And look what's happening now. Only now it's really becoming big. Only now the attention of the artists and the creative people is here. So rushing things is not always necessarily, better. You can also be too early. So you want to be in perfect time. And I do think the moment these things come all together, they will be in perfect time. And they will be at the right time. So markets fluctuate, they go up and down all the time. And people have to chill. But in the end, once it comes together, it comes together. And then it probably will work out well. And, the more exciting part for me is making the things that really change how people interact with blockchain and what kind of things are possible and all of these things that will be built on top of that. That's exciting to me to watch. But for that, the Lego pieces need to be in place and they need to work right. And currently the Lego pieces we have are pretty shitty when it comes to how things are done in the NFT space, for example, or currently on Ethereum. It's still far too basic and too low tech. And that, needs time to build in the right way.
Well, cool. I guess this is my last Lukso question. I have a couple of kind of fun questions, I guess. But let's talk about the Lukso token. What's going to happen with the LYXE token when the LYX token launches?
So the thing is, there will be a migration process of how you move LYXE to LYX. Will we keep the LYXE token around? I mean, it's on purpose E because it's LYX on Ethereum. That's why there's C on the end.
Yeah.
We can keep it around as a bridge token if necessary, but that's something we have to see if that makes sense. So the way how the smart contract works in the token, it actually can even be linked to a bridge, which is pretty cool. So it's all a question of yeah, is there a need for it? What's the point of also being on Ethereum but yeah, it could function as a bridge, not only swapping it to LYX, but also technically to even move back.
All right, let's ask this. What's the next Ethereum standard that you think you would be excited to build, or needs to be built, or hasn't been built yet?
I'm super excited about I'm super excited about the universal profile ERC725, because I think it's one of these standards which not only make accounts possible, but they also make better NFTs possible. They also make verified smart contracts possible. I mean, you can now attach in a standardized format information to any smart contract. That could be a thing, it could be an ICO, this could be, a DEX, could be anything. So attaching information that's like literally readable from the internet and easily readable by other smart contracts, I think it's super valuable and standardized, obviously, and even adjustable if you want to in the future. So I think like this identity and this kind of core building block of attaching information, that's kind of really, really important. It will on its own make a lot of things possible. But that's already kind of there. It just needs adoption, and it will get there. I think the next exciting part, or the next thing that I would like to standardize, is reputation systems and decentralized follower systems, because I think that also needs to be standardized and protocolized. So if you have a decentralized reputation system, which is not just, your numbers of followers, because numbers of followers itself mean nothing. If you have a bunch of people that are unpopular themselves following you, that doesn't say much about you. If you have a lot of people that are very relevant following you, like if Elon Musk follows me, that says more about what I have to say or not, versus like somebody just opened a Twitter account, for example, right? And making this thing transparent and obvious, this kind of trust score or reputation score in a decentralized form, I think that's exciting. I think that would be cool to have, because it gives us more clarity about, the reputation somebody has, the trust somebody has from the world, from the community, from his community, or from whatever else. And this is something that can be built easily on top of the universal profiles as another protocol. So I think that's something cool to standardize. And that's really the big thing I'm seeing. But these pieces alone, and just the things that can come out of 725 alone, would be a lot. They would bring a lot of changes. So there's a lot to be built just on that front alone. So haven't thought like that much more in the future. It's already still a lot in that part.
Still in the beginning, yeah.
The cook,
Absolutely.
Still a lot here that will happen.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. Oh, you know what? Sorry, there's one more question. People are going to get mad at me if I don't ask this. This is actually the most requested question. That's Ariane. What's your relationship with them?
So we have talked to them like for a long time, and they actually have stated, I think even in the press releases multiple times, that they intend to build on Lukso. Ariane is very different than us. We're building a blockchain. We're building basic core pieces that help make projects like Ariane easier and possible, and a bunch of other projects. Ariane is a protocol to issue basic NFTs for physical products. And they have their own way of how they do that. They have their own brand relationships of how they do that. Well, it's a protocol that can sit on top of Lukso or any other blockchain if they wanted to. Right now, they run on POA. So they will likely transition to Lukso. But on the long run, it's their decision of whatever they are doing. They also will likely at some point integrate universal profiles and all of these things. But it's not really a competition level. Never has been really, because it's comparing apples to oranges. It's not the same thing. So we are on an infrastructure level. They are on a middle layer, on a middleware level, let's say, right?
Yeah, cool.
I hope that answers the question for everybody.
No, yeah, it does. And he actually does mention that if you go to the Discord, but not many people use Discord for whatever reason. So, well, I really appreciate your time coming on my channel. I guess before we leave, do you have anything you'd like to say before we end the call?
I mean,
closing
I think like
statements, I guess?
for everybody who's kind of like following us and everybody who's kind of like, you know, watching this Lukso and watching the space, I think it's, there's a lot of new things that are coming because of the things that we build at Lukso, but also it's an ecosystem. We want that it's driven by everybody building something. So we still have to finish a few core pieces. And once they are there and the network is there, there's a lot of like, it will be a self-runner really quickly because of the things that now exist and what they can do. It just doesn't exist like this in the blockchain space right now. And it's so needed, you know, literally on every level it's needed. And I think it's, you know, with these crypto projects, because I've been part of this since a long time, it's about patience. You know, the good things don't need advertisement. The good things don't need to have big news every week. The good things, they happen when they happen, and they happen in the right way. Ethereum hasn't done marketing ever. Neither has Bitcoin. And that's really like when you're thinking about any crypto projects or decentralized project, that's the way how things work. If you pump something, it's air, it's nothing. It will explode to nothing. It will disappear like so many thousands of projects that have, you know, come up, blah, blah, a lot, and then go nowhere. But the real things, they are built and they get naturally adopted. They get traction by itself. And when you look at the attention that we got already and the news we got, and we've been in all kind of big news, people have to understand that this is all stuff that happened naturally. We haven't paid for any article. You know, we haven't paid to be in Forbes on any of this stuff. This stuff happens because people write about us and because we talk to people and they find that what we have to say makes sense. And then, you know, they come up with their own conclusions. And this is the organic growth that real projects need. Everything else is just blurb. You know, it's blah, 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 pump and dump. And if you're really believing and understanding what we are doing, then, you know, you can join along. If you know, if you're a person thinks like this is a project that can go 10x tomorrow, this is the most uninteresting participant in this ecosystem for us because it's the first one who leaves. You know, it's the first one who goes and disappears after he made his money. While the people who actually want to build on this, who really understand the effect it can have, they might be in for the long run, and they would be not the ones selling Ether at €2 or dollars, or Bitcoin at 10, you know, or at 200. It's just the way, you know, how this stuff works. It's on the end in decentralized project. In the long run, we will not be the one like making it successful. Everybody will be driven by a lot of people, and that's not in our hands, you know, where this goes. But we can now plant the right seeds and put the right like basic building blocks there for everybody to build something cool, and then we can all watch a big Lego party happen.
But yeah, have a good one, man. And yeah, I'll post this on the first and tag you and all that jazz. But yeah, have a good one, man. Take care.
Yeah, thanks for having me.